Welcome to the Sean podcast. Yep, I fumbled. I messed up. I don't care. I'm still going. So, this is another fantasy episode. Cat Daddy, what's on your mind?
Man, we are in the beginning of July, and we're not even to like the preseason games yet because still a couple weeks away. But man, I am excited for this fantasy football season. I want it to be here now. I don't want to wait another 9 weeks until the season starts. I want it now.
Well,
Dawson's Creek, you don't want to wait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot whose song it is. Anyways, we're going to get right into it. So, we're going to start with rookie wide receivers that we believe in and that we believe will make a fantasy impact. So, Cat Daddy, you can start off talking about some of these rookie wide receivers that you are looking forward to possibly drafting.
Absolutely. For this brand new category, the first person I have is Drake London with the Atlanta Falcons. I think Drake London is in one of the best positions for a rookie when it comes to targets. Calvin Ridley's out. Russell Gage is gone. It's Kyle Pitts and then who for targets?
True.
I mean, sure, they sign a couple of guys, but I don't think any of them will be competition for Drake London, and the volume should be there. We have questions at who's quarterback, but regardless of who's going to throw the ball, whether it's Marcus Mariota, whether it's Desmond Ridder, Felipe Franks, whomever they have back there chucking that thing, it's either going to go to Pitts or it's going to London. It's going to one of the two.
All right. One of mine, I'm going to take Treylon Burks because, again, just like you're saying, who's the ball going to? Like, there's no A.J. Brown. There's no Julio Jones. Yes, I guess Robert Woods is there, but he's coming off an injury. You know, they're going to rely on Treylon Burks a lot because, let's be honest, Derrick Henry's also coming off of an injury, and he's getting older.
The Titans need Treylon Burks to be successful. They prefer to trade A.J. Brown rather than pay him, then they draft his successor. Those are large shoes to fill, and you know that there's going to be a variety of ways they can get the ball to Treylon Burks. And it sounds like they may be prepared to feed the ball to him early and often. But the one thing that's standing out to me right now, and I want to see a little bit more, I don't want to overreact to it, but it's come out that he has asthma, which has resulted in some conditioning issues during this off season. And part of me is wondering, like, why didn't we hear anything about this during draft season? Like, nothing came out.
Why didn't we hear about it during the season?
And it sounds like he's been having a little bit, some breathing, I wouldn't say problems, but asthma.
He needs to get up. He needs to get up to speed to NFL speed. That's what that is.
Yeah. So I think in redraft leagues, if you're drafting early, if you get him, you have to be patient, because if he doesn't get fully up to speed right away, he may start the season as wide receiver 2, 3, but be patient with him. Don't just drop him after a week or two because he's not producing.
All right. Next up, who do you have next?
The next guy I have is from the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh.
Jalen Tolbert. So Amari Cooper is gone, which means CeeDee Lamb becomes wide receiver 1. Dalton Schultz will get his share of targets. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard form a solid running back duo. Wide receiver 2 should be Michael Gallup when he returns from injury, which may not be when the season starts.
This is true.
That means when the season begins, it could be between James Washington and Jalen Tolbert to show out and see, when Gallup gets fully healthy, which one of these guys stay in the 3 receiver set. And right now, I want to give the edge to Tolbert because they only signed James Washington to a 1-year deal. And I think that Tolbert has the potential to be a mainstay in those 3 wide receiver sets. And if Michael Gallup is forced to miss any time early in the season, Tolbert can take full advantage of that opportunity, and he can see some time as wide receiver too.
Not to mention, just letting you know, Jalen Tolbert has been impressive in the offseason at the moment, while James Washington has been in a walking boot.
Womp womp.
Now, my next guy, even though I do like that one because, it's a cowboy, he has been impressive. He's got good size and good speed for a guy who played at a smaller school. Even though my understanding is he could have played at other schools. He wanted to be where he was. My guy, another small school guy, is Sky Moore. We're talking about the Chiefs offense, people. And I get it. The Chiefs have other players that would be up to speed, like Juju and whoever. Sky Moore, with his route running ability, Patrick Mahomes is going to like him. He's going to get a good share of these targets.
Yeah, he's another one of the rookies that's in a really good spot to be successful if he can earn that early playing time. If he can crack into the top 3 receivers, that could be, I can see that.
All right. Any more for you?
Let's see. Who did I have? I think those were the 2 I had highlighted.
If I would have done the third one, it would have been Jalen Tolbert, to be honest. The only other player I would throw out there, but it's in a deeper league considering how many receivers this team has, and that's George Pickens, who went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but with them having Claypool and Deontay Johnson, he won't produce probably much early on, but come later, he could do something. And then I'm surprised. I'm going to put someone out there for you to talk about to have a third guy, because you really love this player for the pre-draft process. And I'm going to say, I'm going to give you Alec Pierce.
Alec Pierce, if your wide receiver 1 for Indianapolis is Michael Pittman Jr. No question about that. Wide receiver 2 is kind of up in the air right now, and if Pierce can win that job, I think that Matt Ryan has the talent and the ability to support 2 wide receivers.
Agreed.
Now, you're not going to see Alec Pierce putting up same numbers as Pittman, but
he
can
could
still
be
be
a
dangerous.
low-end wide receiver 3 on your roster, or at least a spot starter ever with those horrible bye weeks.
Yeah, and then other wide receivers to keep an eye on. I mean, Jameson Williams, you may not have to draft him depending on your league. If it's a redraft league, you can probably get him off waivers at some points. You're thinking of all the talent. Jahan Dotson, you hear good things coming out of camp about Dotson with Washington, with the football team. Chris Olave with the Saints.
These are the low-hanging fruit for but we need to see a little bit. All right, let's move on to our next segment. This is the possible breakout candidates.
Yes. All right.
You go first.
So, there's 2 really big low-hanging pieces of fruit here. I'm gonna take Gabriel Davis. I'll save the other one for you, because I know he means more for you. But Gabriel Davis, everybody's favorite breakout player. He's entering his 3rd year, and he is just primed for a boom season. The past 2 years, he started the season out as wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, limited targets. Last season, he works his way up to wide receiver 2, and that's by the end of the season. Then you saw the incredible performance in the playoffs against Kansas City. Now, I don't expect him to have any 4-touchdown games in the regular season like the last time we saw him, but I do expect him to start the season as wide receiver 2 in Buffalo and see plenty of targets and plenty of opportunities. Over his first 2 regular seasons, he's had 13 touchdowns on 125 targets. That means he's averaging a touchdown every 10 targets. Now, while I don't expect him to be able to sustain that success, he should be able to approach 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns with a full season of Josh Allen.
All right, so I got a couple though. Two from the same draft. Now, here's the thing: there's two players that could mean something to me, and I'm not sure which one you're talking about. So I'm going to go with the easy one first, and I'm going to say yes, it's a cop out, and I'm going to be a homer. And with CeeDee Lamb, with Amari Cooper out of the picture, CeeDee Lamb, I think, is going to put up monster numbers this year. He's going to be Dak's favorite. Well, he was Dak's favorite target last year, but now he's going to be getting the bulk of those third down targets that, let's say, Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson were trying to take. And from my understanding is Mike McCarthy wants the offense to be changed to be similar to the Green Bay offense, where they schemed Davante Adams open to make it an easier path to get him the ball. So that's the type of stuff they're going to be doing with CeeDee Lamb. Also moving him around, not having him just play the same spot. So it's going to be fun to see, and I think he is going to put up some pretty monster numbers. I don't know if that's who you thought, but there's another guy who.
Now that you mention it, the other guys who I actually had in mind.
All right, well, hold off. Let me get him then. Next.
All right, so I'll go to my next guy, and that's going to be Russell Gage with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I don't see this one, but go ahead.
You don't? All right. So he's not going to approach wide receiver 1 status, right? He's not going to be top 12.
This could have been your sleeper.
It is reasonable to expect a wide receiver 2 ceiling. He's going from one of the worst offenses in football to one of the best. The Bucs offense, led by none other than quarterback Tom Brady, likes to spread the ball around. Now, last season, there were 4 Buc players who had 80 or more targets. Gronk's 89 are gone. At least some of Chris Godwin's 127 need to go somewhere. And even when he returns, it's going to take some time to get fully up to speed. And then you have Antonio Brown's 62 targets that need to go somewhere too. So this is a great situation for Russell Gage. They can move him around. He can play outside, he can play in the slots, he has the ability to pick up yards after the catch, he can win the contested catch. If his ADP remains low, he could be one of the biggest steals in this draft.
All right, so my next guy is, yes, Rashad Bateman.
There we go.
And yes, one of the reasons is there's no more Hollywood Brown there. 2, you saw it last year. Every time he came in and they made him a focal point of the offense, which seemingly was at the end of the game when it meant something, he showed up. It's just like, maybe you should showcase this guy a little bit more. So here's the hoping that they don't just put their new tight ends in the way and they realize we have a stud receiver in the making here, and let's get him the ball.
All right, I have one more. Yeah, one more. All right. So my next guy is Kadarius Toney.
Ooh.
So he didn't have a great rookie season, right? He had injuries, he had off-field issues, he had Joe Judge, he had Jason Garrett. He had one good game where he exceeded 80 total yards, and that was against Dallas in early October. 10 catches, 189 yards, 13 targets. That game accounted for a quarter of his receptions and nearly half of his yardage. He flashed potential, but there is no consistency that we saw throughout the season. But this year, he has Brian Daboll calling the plays. Now, he may not be the best route runner, but it sounds like the Giants' offense is not going to rely on those crisp, exact routes to be run, and that's going to work well for Toney. And you know that Brian Daboll is going to create plays to use Toney's athleticism in every way possible. So I think it's very possible that if Daniel Jones turns in a career year like he should, that Tony's going to approach 1,000 yards this season, and he will for certain exceed his touchdown total from last year, which was 0.
All right, so my last one depends on the league itself. And my last one is Jerry Jeudy. I know. Every year, Jerry Jeudy. But this year, Jerry Jeudy has a quarterback that can distribute him the ball. All he has to do, and yes, I know this, I'm saying all he has to do is, work on that little pesky drop issue. Look, we've seen receivers work on that in the past. Jerry Jeudy has all the talent in the world to, become a stud guy. So let's see how it works out. I know there's Tim Patrick and there's Courtland Sutton. Out of all those three, we both can agree Jerry Jeudy is still the most talented. You think Courtland Sutton? I do not believe it.
I may have somebody to talk about in a few minutes. I might. But first, actually, no, this might be a good segue. I think we have our bounce backs next.
Oh, also, another sleeper, another guy I think is primed for a breakout, depending on the quarterback. Just to throw it out there, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Get him late in drafts. If Deshaun is playing, then Donovan Peoples-Jones could have a big year. All right, next up, yes, bounce backs.
Bounce backs. And my first bounce back is
Jerry Jeudy.
Courtland Sutton.
Oh, it's Courtland
from the Denver Broncos. Now, two things are in favor of him with a smash season this year. First, he is another year removed from the ACL injury. Second, he's got Russell Wilson as his quarterback. Now, you think Denver's going to try and establish the run game. They have Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, and I can't see why Nathaniel Hackett would not allow Russ to just get to the kitchen and start cooking. Russ has a good downfield completion percentage, and Courtland Sutton has a high average depth of target. Nearly 1/3 of Sutton's targets last season were 20-plus yards downfield. Now, this looks like a good combo, and his size can get him a fair amount of red zone looks. I think Sutton will set a career high in touchdown receptions, and his current high is 6, which he had in 2019. I think he exceeds that this year.
All right. That's a solid one. I have a bounce back. His name is Juju Smith-Schuster. And, he's playing with Patrick Mahomes now, not Noodle Arm Ben Roethlisberger. So he will get numbers, even though I don't believe in Juju as much. That he's in the Chiefs offense, and even Mecole Hardman, who I'm not a big fan of, but he put up decent enough numbers in that offense. Like, let's see, what did he have? 513 yards and 8 touchdowns? Oh no, 2 touchdowns. 593 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a guy who, in my opinion, is just an athlete playing football.
All right, my next bounce back is Allen Robinson II with the Los Angeles Rams. And I think that the Rams offense will continue to be good enough to be able to support high value for 2 wide receivers. In his 9 games last season, Robert Woods saw 69 targets. Odell Beckham Jr. saw 48 targets in his 8 games. Between those two, that's 117 targets that can go to Robinson, because I expect him to be number 2 in terms of targets. He's going to be in front of Van Jefferson. He's going to be in front of Tyler Higbee. And guess what? He'll be working with his best quarterback to date in Matthew Stafford. And he benefits from the double coverage that Cooper Kupp's going to see all game long. On paper, this is looking like a dream scenario for an Allen Robinson comeback.
We'll see how that goes with Allen Robinson. And truth be told, I like that one because it is quite possible to happen. In terms of bounce backs, do I have anyone else that I'd like to just throw in the mix? Apparently, I don't think so. I think I gave my bounce back. But give me a moment. Let me just check. Nope, he's not bouncing back. I mean, I could have thrown in Jerry Judy this one, but he just never bounced forward. So you gotta be up to bounce back, don't you?
Let's see. Those are the two main ones I had. Who else could bounce back this year? Let's see. Would you call AJ Brown a bounce back?
AJ Brown? No.
No.
No, he still had a pretty darn decent season. I think those are the two premium. Those are the three premium ones.
You got one. You got another one with Michael Thomas.
I see. I'm not. Michael Thomas. I like, but I'm worried. I'm concerned. I'm very concerned. That's what I'll say. I'm very concerned.
He started running routes recently, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Did. I'm still concerned. So I will believe it when I see it. That's where I am on Michael Thomas. I believe it when I see it, and I haven't seen it. His attitude, all the talent in the world, but his attitude. The only other player I could say is maybe Robert Woods coming off the injury. You know, Tannehill's going to have a reliable target. All his other guys are out, and he's got to throw into a rookie. That's a prime aspect for him to have some bounce back ability there.
All right. So that means we're going to move on to our bust wide receivers. All right. I got a couple. So
to not be confused with buyers beware.
Nope. Busts. These people won't perform, or they won't perform up to their ADP. So first we got to get the low hanging fruit out of the way, and it's not Cooper Kupp, because while Kupp may not be able to repeat the historic season that he had, he should still see volume to be a wide receiver one by the end of the season. So Cooper Kupp, I'm pretty good with staying at the top. The low hanging fruit is Deebo Samuel. I do not think that he's going to be able to repeat last year's productivity, and I think that's what people are going to be expecting him to do. And it's going to be hard to reach that again, let alone exceed it. What helped him fantasy-wise last year is he had 8 rushing touchdowns. 8. A wide receiver with 8. His utilization in the run game was due to various injuries in the 49ers backfield, and I don't think that the same bad luck is going to strike twice, which means Deebo's rushing usage will be reduced, his rushing touchdowns will be reduced, which is going to reduce his overall value, because if he's playing wide receiver and you're mixing in some design plays for him, I don't think he finishes a top 12 wide receiver.
All right, my first guy, my low-hanging fruit. I've got 2 low-hanging fruits, but I will start with one of them right now. And that is going to be DK Metcalf. I don't believe in Drew Lock. DK Metcalf was able to do a lot of what he would do because Russell Wilson bought time, let him get down the field, and threw up YOLO balls. You think Drew Lock's going to be able to do that?
He'll be able to YOLO, for sure.
But I mean, do you think he's going to be able to buy time and be able to accurately get it to DK Metcalf after DK Metcalf can break away from players or the defenders? I don't see it. Which means they might have to try to play a different style of football where DK is running in breaking routes and things of that nature. And I don't know if his numbers are going to, like you said one of the reasons why Courtland Sutton is one of your bounce back candidates is because Russell Wilson is now his quarterback and not Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock.
I have a few things to say about Seattle wide receivers in the buyer beware topic. So just a little teaser there. So I'm going to hold off on the DK Metcalf opinions.
All right.
We'll save that for a second.
Who's your next
But
bust?
my next bust is A.J. Brown, Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh.
He got paid, and good for him. But let's put things in perspective real quick. He's only played a full season of games in one of his 3 seasons, and that was his rookie season. Last year, he had a knee injury during the preseason, and then during the regular season, he had the hamstring injury, the knee injury, the chest injury, the calf injury. Durability creates a question, because in fantasy football, the greatest ability is availability. And then you remember what team he plays on now, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now in Tennessee, he was the first receiving option by a wide margin on a run-heavy team. Now with the Eagles, he'll still be the first receiving option on a run-heavy team, but he's also going to have to compete with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert for targets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a possible downgrade when you factor in the quarterback going from Ryan Tannehill to Jalen Hurts as far as passers are concerned. So I don't feel good about taking A.J. Brown really high in drafts.
With my next bust, I don't care where you take him. He's not going to be that good this year. Marquise Hollywood Brown. The Cardinals traded a first-round pick and got back him and a third-rounder.
And a third.
That means he's your number 1 receiver currently, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out on the Arizona Cardinals. I predict that Rondale Moore gets more receptions than Hollywood Brown.
All right. Are you ready for my third and final bust candidate?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to need you to hold on to your hat for this one.
Okay.
My third and final bust candidate is Jerry Jeudy, Denver Broncos.
Ooh, fair enough.
Is he talented? Yes. George Payton has been talking him up this entire offseason. But does anyone have ties to Jerry Jeudy? Head coach and offensive coordinator came from Green Bay. They're brand new. They never worked with him. John Elway drafted him, but John Elway is no longer GM. George Payton's first year at the Broncos was last season, and during that time, he already signed 2 wide receivers to extensions, and neither of them are named Jerry Jeudy.
Mm-hmm.
He signed Cortland Sutton through 25, and he signed Tim Patrick through 24. Not that it would be time for a Jerry Jeudy extension because he's signed in through 24 with the 5th-year option, but it's a little curious for me that they have Hamler, they have Sutton, they have Tim Patrick. Jerry Jeudy just doesn't have the ties for me. And I think Russell Wilson is going to prefer throwing to Cortland Sutton.
See, I disagree, though. But
and it's okay to be wrong. It's okay.
Hey, and one of us will be. Actually, I disagree to the full fact because here's the thing. Tim Patrick, same type of receiver as Cortland Sutton. I think you need some nuance in your offense. And here's the thing, Cortland Sutton, I get it. Great 50-50 ball, great downfield, but he's not who's moving the chains? Who's their chain mover? And yeah, okay, Hamler, possibly. Who's more talented, Hamler or Jerry Jeudy?
Jeudy has the talents. He's got the talents.
I'm just saying, and I get it. I get what happened last year. And what happened last year, I mean, truth be told, availability is accountability. And that's what happened. He got injured. The other 2 receivers did enough. I don't think they really did enough, but apparently, according to the GM, did enough to get new deals. And when he came back, the offensive coordinator decided we're not going to incorporate you into the offense as much until we have to. And I watched games. He didn't drop passes as much as people think. And when they targeted him, first down almost every time. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what Russ truly enjoys.
We'll see what he cooks up, yeah.
You notice I didn't put Tyler Lockett on my bust. I did put DK, but not Tyler Lockett because Tyler Lockett's a different type of receiver, in my opinion.
All right. That transitions us into the buyer beware category. And I'll go first because you've mentioned DK Metcalf as a bust. You mentioned Tyler Lockett, and my first buyer beware is Tyler Lockett. Until he gets traded or Seattle has a legit quarterback, I am going to be very, very cautious about Tyler Lockett.
I understand caution.
But not as much with DK Metcalf. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not high on Metcalf this season either. I think he's going to do better than Lockett.
Explain.
In the three games where Geno Smith started last season, DK Metcalf put up 14 catches, 197 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 18 targets.
But Geno's not starting.
Yeah.
Geno's not starting. Pete Carroll has talked up Drew Lock.
Yeah, what good does talk do during the preseason? Come on now. Come on. So when you're looking at PPR leagues, that means he scored 11 or more points in each of those 3 weeks where Geno Smith was starting. During that same time span, Lockett put up 16 catches, 189 yards, no touchdowns on 23 targets. Only one of those weeks did we see Lockett score more than 11 points. In fact, only 1 week did we see Lockett score more than 6 points. Metcalf has the ability, the strength to make explosive plays. Lockett's production, even with Russell Wilson, was streaky, and it's going to be harder to trust Lockett without Russell Wilson in town.
We'll see what happens. This is the one.
So this whole season, we're going to be looking at the Denver wide receivers, Courtland Sutton versus Jerry Jeudy, and we're going to be looking at DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. It's going to be great.
It's going to be fun. Buyer beware for me. Let's see. Who do I have a buyer's beware on? Let me see.
If you need time, I got a second buyer beware.
Go ahead, go with yours, just because I'm.
All right. I'll go with my second one. So it is going to be Amari Cooper with the Cleveland Browns. Until we have clarification on any potential discipline that the NFL decides to hand down to Deshaun Watson, I am going to be skeptical on Amari Cooper's outlook. Even in the events where Watson receives no suspension, you have to remember that the Browns are one of the best rushing teams in the league. That means Cooper's ceiling may be a little limited. If you factor in Jacoby Brissett starting for any amount of games, then Amari Cooper's ceiling becomes a little bit lower, because I would assume that the Browns would choose to run the ball even more if you have Jacoby Brissett as your starting quarterback. Now, can Cooper make it happen? Absolutely. He comes from Dallas. Dallas had a pretty strong run game itself, and he still got his in the passing game. But it all depends on Watson. So until we have clarification, buyer beware.
I have a couple.
All right.
I have a couple. First off, I'm going to say the entire Philadelphia Eagles receiving core. I'm just buyer beware there, because this all contends on Jalen Hurts developing as a passer.
Yeah.
Not a runner.
Yep.
As a passer. And we have not seen any of that as of late. Apparently he's reshaped his body. Apparently he looks really good. Again, I gotta see it. Then it brings me to Michael Thomas, as you mentioned earlier. Again, buyers beware. If you're taking him earlier to try to get a drop on it, be careful, because he could. I don't know. He's got one of them issues that some of these receivers do. And then lastly, to Mr. Cap Daddy's dismay. Even though it's a weird dismay, because, it's a debate between fantasy and real life. But my last one is Darnell Mooney. A lot of Bear fans out there think Darnell Mooney's a number one receiver. I don't see it.
It'll be, I mean, that's a good one. It's going to be a test for Darnell Mooney this season because last year, even when Allen Robinson wasn't playing or playing as well, he was still wide receiver one. He was still drawing attention from the opposing defense. This year, who did the Bears have? They have Darnell Mooney. They have Cole Kmet at tight ends.
Valoose.
Who's wide receiver two? Are we
Valoose.
going with Byron Pringle?
Valoose.
Are we going with the 25, 26-year-old Valoose Jones Jr., who's a slot wide receiver? Who are we going with for the wide receiver two? So it's going to be a lot of pressure on Darnell Mooney, which just, man, go back and watch our NFC North draft review episode and just listen to all the things that we said that they didn't do to help Justin Fields with offensive talent, offensive line, and just insert that right here. Yeah, that'll help them a lot.
I know Aaron Rodgers played defense, but hey.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, buyer beware on any Packer wide receiver this season. Until it's still early.
It's not even buyer beware there. It's literally like
just avoid.
It's literally like watch, just monitor which receiver is he gonna like. Is it Amari Rodgers? Is it Allen Lazard, who he likes, but I just don't think has the talent to be a number one? It's gonna be Christian Watson, or who else?
Yeah, I would, if I had to put the wide receivers in order, and I would love to be at the practices to see, but if I had to put them in order, I would feel more confident with Allen Lazard over everybody else. Number two, I think, just because of the veteran presence, would be Sammy Watkins.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Sammy Watkins.
And then at that point, it's, do you go Randall Cobb? Do you go Amari Rodgers?
Same
I wouldn't put the rookies up. Exactly. I wouldn't put the rookies in the top three just yet. But if you're doing an early draft, at the end of your draft, I would just throw a dart at one of the Packer wide receivers. And if you get it right, fantastic.
Something hilarious. You know the last rookie wide receiver that Aaron Rodgers basically showcased more so than not?
Who's that?
Davante Adams.
And even his rookie season was pretty quiet.
It was, but he targeted him. He targeted Amari Rodgers. Got how many targets from Aaron Rodgers last year?
They traded for Randall Cobb before the season started.
Right.
Yeah. Rookie season, Davante Adams got 66 targets.
Exactly.
And then if we look at Amari Rodgers.
No. And let's be honest, those Amari Rodgers targets, probably most of them came from Jordan Love.
Let's see. Last year, Amari Rodgers had 8 targets.
Exactly.
Yikes.
Exactly. Even look at, what was it, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, his rookie year.
Oh man, that rookie class was no bueno. Let's see, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. His rookie season, he drew a total of 73 targets.
That's better than most.
That was the most he had in his time with Green Bay, was 73 targets his rookie
Somebody
season.
got injured that year, though, right? I think someone got injured that year.
Yeah, he started 10 games. I think that might have been the year that Nelson or Cobb got injured. I'd have to go back and look.
But regardless, let's see if one of these receivers can show out. Here's the thing. Watkins has all the ability to possibly show out. Rodgers has the ability to take that job from Cobb. Cobb still can play, but he's lost a step.
Yeah, I think Cobb is just there for the veteran presence, that leadership.
These young guys have the ability. Sammy Watkins, let's see if he can stay healthy. He's still a young guy. How old is he? 28?
He's something or other.
So, not to break it the Aaron Rodgers show, but Aaron Rodgers is very important to fantasy. He is 29 years old. 29 years old.
He's an old 29 then. It feels like he's been in the league for at least a decade.
It feels it. All right, but if you don't have any more, then I think that's all she wrote for this week, folks.
Denver, Seattle, week 1. We're gonna get a good look.
Next week we got what? Did we do running back already?
Nope, we have running backs next week.
Running back next week. Tune in, people. Denver, Seattle.
Same bet channel, same bet place.
Put a bet on this. If we had a sponsor, I'd do a bet for the sponsor. Speaking of that, any sponsors listening, come our way.